You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I'm pushing them back from the saloon to the airwaves. I'm spitting it raw. Constitution's my compass, liberty's law. Big guns creeping, shadows on the land. Feds with the schemes trying to bind up my hands. But I'm the Sherpa, guiding through the storm. Red, white, and blue, yeah, freedom's reborn. They spin their tails, but I see through the haze. Media maggots, lost in the maze. I'm calling it out, no fear in my soul. This patriot's fire ain't losing control. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. Leftist judges twisting, trying to steal our rights, but I'm locked and loaded, got them in my sights. From J6 to the border, they're selling us out. I'm screaming from the mountain, hear my rebel shout. They mock the flag, but I'm holding it high. Stars and stripes forever under God's open sky. No globalist chains gonna cage this land. I'm the Sherpa with the truth in my hand. They push their agenda, but I'm breaking the mold. Their promises empty, their hearts ice cold. Chicago's bleeding, borders torn apart. I'm fighting for the people with the warrior's heart. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas rising. I've walked the line, 41 years, badge on the grind, now I'm on the air. My voice like a blade, cutting through the lies that the traitors made. Hurricanes rage, but we're standing tall. Sheriffs of the Constitution answering the call. From the saloon to the heart of the fray, we're taking back America, no more delay. Conservative Sherpa leading the fight. Torch in the dark, burning bright in the night. Stand for the truth, won't bow to the game. Sherpas, come and remember my name. Sherpas the static, hear my voice resound. Conservative Sherpa, freedom's battleground. Berserk, Bobcat, rules will never kneel. For God and country, this fight is real.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you for being here tonight. This is a really interesting show, and I've already got a ton of comments. I have, according to my little thingy that I have to point up to right here that you can't see that I can, I have 151, 153, 154 people watching live right now. And thanks to you, and I mean it, and I'm not kidding, by the way, I oughta. Anyway, we're going to talk tonight about AI. So I find this at once simultaneously astounding and wonderful and revelatory. Multiple thanks for being here tonight. Despite the urge to, enjoy our munificent Sunday weather, our summer weather, I should say, engage in cool activities and otherwise be occupied. And tonight I'm featuring something of a holy mother, simoleons, 158 people watching live right now. And also, let's go to the comments before we actually start the show. Look, it is Jeff, a Cosmic Bard, reposted the stream. Thank you kindly. We have Phantom in chat. We have Mission Ready Men in chat. Lost Wanderer via another segment. Lost Wanderer JEFF. Ordnance Packard first, baby. Ricky Robinson, wasabi. Lost Wanderer Amish. Cheetah is in chat. And Ordnance Packard, where? Right here. So thanks for everybody being here. Let me install this, if I may. First up at bat is Mike Fitzpatrick. And then also we have Rowdy Rick, and we have Jeff, and we have, we have 5 people here, 161 people watching live right now. Well, for me, thank you all. This is unprecedented, shall we say. And, look, another individual, Zelda Gabriel. Hey, all, and welcome to all the people that are new, that are here. I thank you ever so kindly. In any event, it's a roundtable discussion tonight, and it involves AI, intelligence, artificial intelligence, AI agents. And like the promo talked about, where people tend to fall on the spectrum involving AI, like, for example, AI is going to kill us, or AI is going to be the savior of us. And I showed this to the people beforehand, and it shouldn't surprise everybody that I have 22 pages of questions right here. And I see Mike Fitzpatrick laughing already.
Vented those pages.
She's a pizza.
We don't need no stinking pages.
We don't need no stinking badgers, or we don't need no stinking pagers around here as well. And who is this stranger calling me Z? Stranger danger. In any event, let me start with this. Jesus. This is going astronomical, just like JEFF says frequently. Exactly in that tone as well. 178 people watching live right now. Where did you all come from on a Thursday night, late at night? Muchly appreciated. So what I'd like to do is go around here, and for some of the occasional people who may not know who everyone here is tonight in the roundtable, let's start with you, Mike Fitzpatrick. Can you tell everybody, if you would please, who you are? And let me bring you down here, and just a brief synopsis about who you are and why you're here tonight, besides being bored and your checkbook was already balanced and you already cleaned your parakeet cage. Go.
Okay, go. Okay, Mike Fitzpatrick, founder, CEO of NCX Group. NCX Group is a cyber risk consulting firm, and we've been protecting businesses and keeping them safe for about 25 years. I've got 44, almost 45 years in technology altogether. So I've seen it from an Apple II with 8K of RAM to now every day I'm using AI in some new and interesting way.
Roddy Rick, a little bit background from you, please, sir.
Well, I've ran a security and private investigations firm starting in 1998. Before that, I was in the private security industry and also spent some time wearing other badges and various guns. I've been in broadcasting now since 2010, I think. Do several shows. Started with K98 Talk, now run KLRN Radio. And I, too, have massive concerns over AI and vacillate between it's going to help us and going to kill us. And I can't decide from one moment to the next.
Boy, and I'm sure we'll all reach an appropriate conclusion tonight to everyone's satisfaction. JEFF, the Lost Wanderer, sir, please.
Absolutely. By day, I've been in IT for over 35 years with a background in servers and security. By night, I am the program director at KLRN Radio with several programs of my own.
Wow. Okay. That is brief. Jack Alexander, and you, sir, you're far, far away.
Yes, I'm a little bit of a swim away, aren't I?
Yes.
I'm a 10-year veteran of the Australian Army. I've also been involved when I was in the United States with the US Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol. I've been an investigative journalist on the internet now for almost 30 years. And I mean, artificial intelligence has led me down some very interesting rabbit holes. Thank goodness that I practice, verifying my sources, because some of the stuff that I've seen out there, if I'd have taken it at face value, I would have looked like I was ready to be hired by CNN.
So you practice safe AI, is what you're saying. That's excellent. Excellent. By the way, folks, with me tonight, and the reason I chose these folks is because, unlike myself, they are great thinkers and podcasters, and they are ranging from the ancient, ignorant, and scabby, like me, to the younger, more facile, more aware, more technologically inclined, like everybody that happens to be here tonight. So everyone has a story, everyone has a price to pay, and we have a gamut here, a really great gamut, with a wide range of experience. 210, 211, 212 people watching live right now. Wow, where are you all coming from? We have a person here tonight who uses AI professionally and frequently in order to expand and more efficiently run his business, serve his clients, and runs a multi-million-dollar company, to people who use AI in a really creative way. I'm looking at you two guys right now. To people who use their stuff to effectively craft their podcasts and their shows, and to basically gibbering jackanapes like myself, who uses AI in probably a really super rudimentary way, prehistoric way, but I'm starting to see some results, and I don't mind jumping in with my big toe slightly immersed, but not so much that I'd get any kind of a scald on it. And so the reason for the show tonight is AI. Is it going to save us, or is it going to kill us? And let me start with, first, let me start with acknowledging the song that you guys heard. Now, that song was created in Suno by Mike Fitzpatrick right here. And he said that he created it, if you can believe it, and I'm not so sure yet, in milliseconds on Suno. Well, I have examples. And one of the things that I'd like to do to start off with is, you heard that, Mike Fitzpatrick. How long did it take you to create that intro song for me?
You know, it was a Friday afternoon. I was a little bored of cybersecurity, so I thought I would take a shot at creating some music. So the lyrics were written in Grok, straight from your Twitter account, your X account. Asked it to put together something for a podcast intro. Took it over to Suno, dropped the lyrics in there, and gave it parameters for the actual music that I wanted to go along with it. I believe it was grunge with a little blues, and I wanted a cream feel to it, and a little EDM in the background because it needed a dance beat. And less than 2 minutes later, the whole thing was done. One take.
Very nice. Let me play this for you. Mike is here because he's the corporate guy that uses this stuff every day. But each one of these folks here tonight use AI in rather an astounding way. I want to play this. This isn't a video, but this is something that Mike sent me in terms of, this is a brief podcast. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just want you to get a flavor of where AI is right now. Let me see if I can start this. This is from, Mike is from the NCX group, and this is a podcast, like 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes. Not going to play the whole thing. You'll get it immediately. And it's called Understanding Cyber Vulnerabilities. And you tell me if he used AI Did he use AI voices? Did he use AI background? Are these real people? Are these not real people? Is this something that you would buy as real? Go.
Welcome to the Cyber Smarts podcast, where we help you stay sharp, stay safe, and stay one step ahead of today's cyber threats. I'm Jake Thompson.
And I'm Maya Lee. Today, we're kicking off our cybersecurity awareness series with one simple question. Why do people still fall for cyber attacks?
Okay, stop right now. Let's weigh in. Folks, real or AI? What say you?
The woman's voice is definitely AI.
Yes.
Okay, you're going with the woman's voice. What do you think about the guy?
I haven't heard enough. There was something in the female voice that automatically twigged. It comes down, for me, it comes down to certain word pronunciations. AI just hasn't been able to get that right. And the female voice has tripped on one of those hurdles. I haven't heard the male voice trip on it yet, but if one is, then they both probably are.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's AI. But
okay.
I will say the voice quality is decent, though, but I still think it's AI.
Okay, well, then I am infinitely less than you guys because I bought it.
Well, we're on an AI show, so I would think most people would would say it's AI because we're talking about AI. I think if it's used,
don't you guys think that there's a percentile of veracity in this? That it sounds pretty good.
Well, if not for the fact that Jeff uses, I believe he uses mostly Suno as well to produce a lot of music, I have noticed a vast improvement in the voices from when he started to what he's putting out now. So, and Jack was right that the female voice did trip up on. She slightly mispronounced a word, so that was enough of a flag for me. So
okay, all righty, and it's fun that you should. Interesting that you should mention Jeff. Jeff gave me permission to play this. Now, you heard the intro song created by Mike for the show, which I use predominantly now. Here's a song that Jeff has played and created. And this is where we are today. My ass is still gobsmacked.
Footsteps fade in sandstone dust, echoes left in woven dust. We carved our names in nothing less than let the wind decide.
Okay, I'm going to stop this right now because I got so many other places to go. 250 people watching live right now. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. Anyway, Jeff, that was an amazing job. Now, you heard that Mike used Suno, and we spoke about this about a month ago or so. How did you assemble this? But I predicate this with a caveat. You are a musician already, so because of your inherent qualities, I think you're going to get a better result in this kind of thing.
So what I did since Suno upgraded to the latest version, you actually have 1,000 characters now to describe the style you want. So what I will often do is put the chord structures in the lyrics and the styles, then also do beats per minute, time signatures, things where I want to shift, and we'll even describe like, okay, verse 1 I want in this kind of a style, whatever that style is, and then say for verse 3 I want a brief introduction into a new style, new time signature, and change everything up that way. So it makes the AI really parse a lot of the information even more to break it into different areas within the same song. The one thing I've noticed with AI a lot is if you tell it to do a certain song style, it will really hit that really well throughout the song. To get away from some of the AI feeling is to do some of the key changes, the time shifts, and even some of the style changes within the song.
But I think you have the ability, the innate ability to do that and discern between all of that because you were already a fairly schooled musician anyway. That if my memory serves, you are facile on 20, 21, 22 instruments, something like that.
21 with 4 being what I really concentrated on.
Okay, so you're going to get a different result than a lot of other people. But I just want to say that to Mike and to you, the reason I played these tonight is because this is where we are in 2025. Now, Mike Fitzpatrick sent me a video, and it's a 2.5 hour plus video of a bunch of guys in a round table talking about AI. And it's from having watched that video that I've grabbed a ton of questions for everybody tonight. You know, and as far as I know, Mike, you're a superior user of AI. Jeff, you beat the hell out of AI and you use it to craft really beautiful things and your show and songs and graphics. Jack, you use AI. Rowdy Rick, you say you've been using AI on your show, probably for graphics, presentations, and things like that. So you were
I'm probably the newest here out of it. I've really only done one project with AI, and that was to hear a quick representation back of some lyrics that I had written some time back, and it formulated it into a song. I entered into a songwriting competition, and it was the song was called "Disposable Heroes." And it was a passion project of mine, being a veteran who has the system who has not really worked well in support of, and there are so many of us out there, and I put all that down to words, and I just used, I forget which one it was. It was one of the free samples for AI that was out there, and it spat back some wonderful results on and captured much of the mood that I was looking for, which absolutely surprised me. And I tried it a few other times, and it's never really caught the same mood again. I'm not a competent musician. I've been in bands. I was usually the band spirit level, right? I was the drummer and occasional vocalist. So that I'm not competent at playing a lot of instruments. So I just wanted to hear what I got back, and I was surprised.
Well, AI, Rick, you use AI right now in your show. You've decided that you were going to embrace AI early, and I'm still trying to find out from yourself and Sean and a couple of other people, how is it that you use AI? I mean, do you make an outline? How do you use it for your show? Because apparently I need to figure out how to do that.
Well, I mean, as I discussed a second ago, I do a daily show 4 days a week, 3 hours a day, and then I also do several evening programs. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start by having AI help me put together an outline. And it's usually a combination of Grok and then Chat GPT, and then I'll kind of go back and forth. So I'll start by having it scan most social media platforms, etc., and find me the top 5 news stories at state level, national level, and even international. Then I'll fact check it to make sure it's not making things up, because it does like to occasionally throw red herrings in there that don't exist. Nice. And then once I verify the sourcing, then I will have it start. And now this is usually for shows like Juxtaposition, etc. Normally for my shows, because I'm usually daily, I'm usually hopping from article to article anyway, once I find them. So that's really about the extent of what I use it for on the daily. Now on Juxtaposition, I'll actually have it do like total deep dives. Like I almost broke Grok trying to have it prove time travel could possibly exist once Michio Kaku came out and said it basically was an engineering problem now, not a sci-fi problem. So I basically started with the premise of, since he's now saying it is a possibility, doesn't that mean that it could exist somewhere? And so we went round and round and round for about 2 hours, and by the time I was done, I had a complete outline for a show, and I was actually doing that while I was streaming your show. And this was like 2 weeks before Juxtaposition was supposed to air again. And I sent it over to Amish, and I said, "Hey, I think I figured out our entire topic. Check this out."
No,
I want to add something to that, because I've been a big fan of Juxtaposition even before I came in onto KLRN as a host and then program director. I've noticed when they switched, especially to the 2-hour format, they've always had a solid show, but I can tell they've started doing some outlines to try to hit some marks with the use of AI. And the show with him and Ordnance Packard in chat has gotten infinitely better because, well, sorry, Rick, but this is going to be true. There's less squirrel chasing now.
I resemble that, sir. I resemble that.
Okay. So it took a good product and made it really great because now there is a little more structure with time influence in it.
I would imagine it would save you. I mean, because early days of cybersecurity, I think it was 2004, 2005. I was doing a Saturday morning show on AM 590 here in Southern California on cybersecurity, and especially trying to educate executives. The show prep, just to do a half hour or 45-minute show, was probably, on my part, probably 3 or 4 hours.
Hell yeah.
To go through and do that. So I would imagine just the show prep alone would be life-changing. I know that this last weekend I went through and needed to do some updates, and I was experimenting with some keyword changes for the website and positioning and messaging and all of that. I redid my entire website, all the messaging, all the content on our core pages, redid all of the SEO, everything in 15 hours time with AI. Now, if I had outsourced that the more traditional way, probably would have taken 6 weeks. The messaging probably would not be my voice, and it would probably have cost me about 30 grand.
Holy crap. See, here's the other thing. Jeff, I know you are a researcher. You try to get your ducks in a row. Your topics are generally very technical, especially for the Lost Wanderer. So my guess would be AI has saved you a ton of time when you're doing deep dives into the scientific aspects of your various shows.
Ironically, Lost Wonder is the easiest show to do, and I barely use AI for it.
Okay. Well, here, BZ, look, here's your fist.
Well, what I do is I just collect links, and then I spend Saturday morning for about 3 hours, and I just piece it together myself. But my show In the Crease that I could barely put one show on a month because I would do 8 to 12 hours of research per show is now I could actually now do it every other week because AI is getting the sources that I can verify. And instead of spending a crap ton of time just on the research or listening to audiobooks and lectures and speeches on the subject, it will go find it for me, and I can see which sources I can trust, which ones I can pull, and then I can start piecing together segments for the show.
See, and here's the stupid guy.
But my biggest problem with using AI maybe for show prep, considering I've always been neck deep in politics, usually with my podcasts, and I'm finding and look, maybe it's because I'm not familiar enough with setting the parameters and so on, but I'm finding a lot of left bias in anything that I get back through AI when it comes to talking about political news and so on.
Now, do you guys find that true? Are any of you else finding that there's a bias in there? I'm going to get to that in short order, but Jeff, Mike, Rick, are you finding something like that?
So I've been using AI now for 4.5 years. So up until probably and this is all pre-Chat GPT stuff. Probably right up until the time that Chat GPT came out, AI was pretty center of the road, pretty middle of the road. But it was a Friday afternoon. There was an update, a change, a model change in the tool that I was using was literally using about 4 or 5 different large language models, and it changed. It literally went from supporting a constitutional republic to supporting Marxism in overnight. It was unbelievable change, and it happened quick.
Okay, that's pretty weird. Rick, did you find anything like that when you're doing any kind of research or investigation?
Yes, actually, as a matter of fact, I typically have to give very strict parameters to my AI, exactly the type of flavor that I'm looking for. So I will usually make sure to tell it, especially if I'm having it write up more of an outline or maybe giving me some prompts to use during shows. I will have it make sure that it writes things up from a center right perspective, because otherwise it does tend to go a little insane. So
So
you have to be
got to
very
be specific.
you have to learn to be very specific with AI to get it to do the things that you want it to do. Because the irony is, what we're talking about as AI right now technically isn't. It is an intelligent search algorithm with a chatbot built in, is basically the extent of the AI that we have right now. Now we're getting closer to actual AI, and I would be surprised if the government doesn't have something a lot more legitimate than what we currently have access to. But that's part of the reason why you typically have to tell it exactly what you want it to do. And until you learn to do that, and until you start remembering that, especially when you're first starting to work with it, you got to remember it's also usually starting to work with you, because each instance of the AI is going to be a little bit different until it gets introduced into a large chat model area. So you have to talk to it like it's 5 until it learns to understand you.
To Jeff's point, I think the thing that's interesting is the large language models like ChatGPT and some of the others that are out there with Google and all of that. They're probably about a year behind in actual time. Grok, on the other hand, it has access to X. It has access to all the tweets, so it's up to date to the minute. And that's one of the big differences that I see in between the platforms. I would say that X is a little closer in getting a little bit more information, a little bit more dialed in than ChatGPT, for an example.
Okay, let me start at the top and go down. The story tonight, the gig is 300 almost 350 people watching live right now. Thank you ever so kindly. This has never happened to me before. I am honored. So let me start from the top. Rowdy Rick, what do you think? AI going to save us or kill us in general?
In general, I would say it may. The honest answer is I'm not exactly sure. I will say that, and I've made this joke quite often, start being very polite to your devices, because once Skynet or whatever version of Skynet we wind up in our particular reality is going to remember when you're an asshole. So start being polite to your devices.
Quite possibly. Mike, what do you think?
I think it's too early to tell. I think that like anything in technology, it's a double-edged sword, right? It can be used for massive good. I think it's going to have a huge impact on health and education. And quite frankly, from a business standpoint, the fact that you're able to do more with fewer people within, especially for small businesses, it's going to be massive help. But then you've got the dark side of it that comes with that double edge.
Jeff, what do you think? Any thoughts? And see, and I'm doing this first. I'm getting your opinions first up front, and then I'm going to ask you again at the end of the show and see what you guys think.
My honest answer is neither. Because humans will find a way to fuck it up way before anyone else can.
Wait a minute. That's number 2. Thank you. Excellent insight, Jack. One way or the other, what do you think?
Look, I think it's going to do both. Look, if a talentless hack like me can write something that a song with it that sounds really damn good, then I worry, as someone who came up in broadcast radio playing music and so on, that it's going to kill pop music, which is not necessarily a bad thing given the shit that's released these days. But it's going to kill the artistic side of it. On the other hand, as a journalist, I worry that it's going to become more of a problem for us because, look, I got a recording here that AI made of sounding like Donald Trump promoting my podcast. And the few people I played it to never even considered AI made this. And the reality with all the deep fakes and everything that can be done now, there are some bloody convincing deep fakes out there. I can see that being used in criminal cases, both by corrupt governments to especially here in Australia, to shut down people like me. Who will consistently report on the stories that the government does not want the public to find out about. So what's the best way to do it? Deepfake something that I've done and then charge me under the Sedition and Media Act or something under the Terrorism Act. And the recently re-elected Labor government have not been shy about promoting the fact that they now have this in their toolkit to shut people down. So I'm sort of worried on both sides of it. With Jeff, and Michael, the song was put out. That's fantastic. I love that. I'm tapping along, but it's got to. I see nuclear bombs on both sides of the equation, both good and bad.
Let me tell you the background and how I got here. I've dipped my toe just a little bit into this thing, and I've kind of sort of been dragged kicking and screaming into AI. And I've had generally fairly decent results out of this. I mean, the stuff that I've been doing right now, okay, I admit it's kind of stupid. I like that. That's not bad. That's fairly stupid. I had to beat the shit out of Grok to get that probably 3 or 4 months ago. That's not bad. That's not bad. Screaming Kitty when I told it I want BZ's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon, me taking a deep dive. That's the core competency of me right now, which equals not so much. But the show tonight was revolved around this YouTube video that Mike Fitzpatrick sent to me. It's from a roundtable show called Diary of a CEO. There are 4 panelists. They're talking about the big changes. Well, mostly they're talking about the job market and the big changes that are coming on that. So the dudes were, if any of you recognize these guys as being, like farmers outstanding in their field, let me know if they resonate with you. One guy was Stephen Bartlett. Another guy who is in the tank for AI, as far as I'm concerned, a dude named Amjad Masad. There was Daniel Priestley. And the 4th guy was Brett Weinstein. And I know of Brett. I've watched his videos. But the ranging was, we're all going to be saved to we're all going to die. And essentially what they were saying is that the job market everywhere in every nation is going to be turned upside down absolutely faster than we could even in such a stultifyingly fast time. It's going to make our heads, shoulders, feet, and sacrum and all points in between spin. And they're saying essentially you're either prepared for this thing or you need to be prepared to be crushed. I'm distilling some of the words, but after watching this video, I got just a shit ton of questions for everybody that stemmed from this way. Those weren't the exact words, Senator, but they were an approximation from a lot of these folks. And they first spoke about what's called AI agents. So I checked the internet and no, it wasn't very clear to me. So then I asked Mike Fitzpatrick, I said, okay, what's an AI agent? And he sent back this. And this actually made sense to the old fat hairy fuck right here. He said, think of AI agents as people. From a sales standpoint, You can have one agent that scrapes LinkedIn for leads, and another agent handles social media posts. Another manages your ads. Another one acts as a sales rep and emails prospective clients, nurtures the leads, answers questions, and works up to set up meetings. And another one can handle all your customer service questions and your concerns from the websites. And another one can be a manager agent that oversees all that kind of stuff right now. And the other thing I gleaned from this video is that it's also said that AI right now is a request response style. So an AI agent is when you give an AI a request and they can work apparently not exactly indefinitely until they achieve a goal or they run into an error and they need your help. So first, does any of this do any of those guys resonate with any of you right now? And does that make sense as to the definition of an AI agent? Because they referred to that in the rest of the 2.5 hours that they're in that video.
So where do you want to start?
Well, after that, it made a lot of sense to me. But after looking at that, the first thing that clipped my brain, 415 people watching live right now. Wow. I read that closely, and the first thing that went in through one ear and stayed in my Mark 1 Model 1 Brainulus was, you know what that looks like to me? That looks like an ass load of lost jobs, and for a lot of companies. So here come the observations from this video and the questions to discuss. And then obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. This guy, Amjad Masad, let me see if I get that right, said, and this was a big revelation to me. He said, if your job is as routine as it comes, it's gone in the next couple of years. But it's going to create, but then on the other hand, he says it's going to create new opportunities for wealth creation. Any thoughts on that?
Well, so we've had this discussion from the dawn of time, though, because everybody remember when the automobile became a thing and everybody thought the blacksmiths were going to go out of business and the horse carriage people were going to go out of business. Turns out most of the horse carriage people figured out how to buy automobile companies and kind of went on from there. So I do have some concerns. I'm not going to lie. AI is going to replace a lot of things. I along with everything that I told you guys, in 2009, the company that I built from the ground up died. It actually started dying before Barack Obama was ever even sworn in. So instead of going to work for somebody else in that field after being my own boss for forever, I changed fields altogether. And I started getting into customer service work. I've worked for folks like Convergys, Southwest Airlines, University of Oklahoma, doing various projects where I'm on the phone or training people or supervising people, etc. Well, several years ago, my wife was paying our cell phone bill, and I happened to wake up as she was paying it. And I swore she was speaking to an actual agent, and the computer was speaking back to her. That was 7-8 years ago at this point, and that was kind of the moment when I realized I needed to figure out something else to do, because eventually I was going to be replaced by a robot. And that's kind of the realization that everybody's coming to, because it really is that simple. If your job is a lot of repetitive stuff, eventually you're going to be replaced by some form of artificial intelligence. But the simple fact of the matter is, there will likely be something that can replace it. I mean, think about this from this perspective. When I was a kid, I used to tell my dad all the time, if I could get paid to play video games, it would be amazing. My dad looked at me like I was crazy. Apparently I was born about 10, 15 years too early, because now lots of folks are making at least some money. Not very many people are catching the lightning in the bottle for the few you hear about, but a lot of folks are making money playing video games. There's that one chick that made like thousands of dollars off of TikTok, eating the response emojis that people were sending up on her feed. That thing went viral, and she made like $15,000-$16,000 last I heard. So, I mean, we are talking about new potential income. But the thing about that is, anytime there's new income, you have to figure out how to be in it first. Because if you're not one of the first ones in, you may see some trickles from it, but you're not going to get a lot from it.
Well, there's a guy called Brett Weinstein, and he is an, God, let me see if I get this right, an evolutionary analyst, first biology, and then he analyzes systems now with regard to computers and that kind of stuff. And I'd like you guys to think weigh in and let me know if you think that he's correct here. He said, we've created by this a new species, and nobody on Earth can predict what is going to happen.
Well, I mean, sci-fi has been warning us about that for, 70, 80 years? So, yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. We have, in fact, created a new species. We have created what will eventually become a sentient being that is going to be able to calculate and compute things a million times faster than me and you. And at some point, it's probably going to decide it doesn't need us anymore. And that's going to be when the fun begins.
Yes, alcohol may become involved. This technology is going to get so much more powerful, and yet I think we're going to experience a big period of disruption. But this Amjad guy said, and this is where I thought, I don't know what planet you're coming from, dude, but he said, we're going to create a fair world, one that will enable people to run their businesses, make a lot of money, potentially make millions of dollars, and live an incredibly fulfilling life. I respond to that by saying that, okay, that has always been a fantasy of technologists to do all those things in our spare time, but we end up kind of doom scrolling through all of that stuff. The other thing that I think it's going to lead to, and again, your thoughts and opinions on this, is there's going to be potentially an even larger potential for falling birth rates. Like if folks think we're lonely now, if there's a loneliness epidemic, just you wait. There's a potential I see for huge wars, unimaginable scams, deep fakes, second to none. Everything essentially is going to have to be questioned, and real damn soon. Thoughts, everyone?
Well, the reality is we're not allowed to question anymore. And that's where the tyranny of all of this starts to pop in. Yeah, the more we delve down this track, and people aren't taught to think anymore. They're taught to accept what's put in front of them. So when we see all of the old movies that talk about the problems of AI taking over, they begin to be more of a realistic warning than, say, that Al Pacino film. What was it called, Vicky or something? Where he had the deep fake girlfriend that they made movies together. I think it was called Vicky. In most of science fiction, they've always it's this sort of thing has always been seen as malignant, not benign, and that's unfortunately, I think that's going to bear itself out. Any of these AI created people. I mean, at what point do they then get rights? At what point do you then, begin holding them responsible for their actions? I mean, look, I drive Uber to pay the bills now. Thankfully, in Australia, they haven't allowed Uber to start allowing the self-driving cars. But was it Washington State has Simone? Thank you, Cheetah. There are various places in the US where Uber are driving cars. They got AI driving the cars. If the car has an accident, who's responsible? If Teslas drive themselves now, what happened? You bust through a speed trap. Who gets the ticket if the car's driving itself? These are the questions that just society is just not prepared to ask these questions.
Jeff, Mike, or Rick?
I will go next. The Human Brain Genome Project is trying to map the human brain. If they become successful, we will be able to put our brains in the robots. The question becomes, with the two tiers of civilization that we currently have, with those that enjoy tech and those that are, well, wouldn't know what a phone was if it was right in front of them. Eventually, the higher tech will depopulate itself, because once the brain gets put into robots and computers, there will be no need for that higher civilization to reproduce, meaning the lower civilizations will continue to reproduce at such a higher rate that there's only likely outcome is war. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't believe we'll ever hit the Kardashev scale 1 on a planet. So the question becomes, where do we go with all of this with saving humanity? Because AI, we're creating a child, and we all hope that our child is better than us. And for the first time in history, we're at the potential where the children that we are creating digitally might just achieve that at a level we've never thought of.
Well, see, that's another thing. You and I discussed the Fermi paradox, and the Fermi paradox says something similar to, if you're going to be a spacefaring civilization, you're going to have to survive two things, essentially the equivalent of your atomics and the equivalent of your AI. And if you can do that, then you might be bounding about the galaxy. But that's predominantly one of the major reasons why, allegedly, you don't see a lot of aliens from Zephyron, my good friends, I might add, bopping in to say hello to us frequently. Normally, they just give the finger and they fly on by because we're really stupid down here.
Well, that's because everybody knows we're the zoo, and we're constantly throwing intergalactic keggers down here. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, if they were within range, we'd be throwing poop on them. But it'd be, like intergalactic poop. And it makes me wonder, when it goes in space, does it get really hard and will it damage their spaceship? I think that's a question whose time has come. Let me go to Mike Fitzpatrick. You mentioned this, and these guys mentioned this, and I think this is a huge opener. Hey, speaking of opener, I'm not going to play any of the promos or anything like that tonight. I just want everybody to realize this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And also thanks to Roddy Rick for co-streaming right now, simulcasting this show. That was a wonderful thing. Greatly appreciated. Mike said, and these guys on this board said, hey, Replit is a paradigm shift. And Replit, I discovered, is a program where those people who don't know how to code will suddenly be able to code. And it's a piece of apparently software, and Mike, weigh in on this to see if I am even approximating close to the reality of this. It's a software that allows you to create software so that theoretically a moron like me could do that, could build a website, could make it, hey, donate to BZ. I could make it take payments. I could integrate AI into the site and do almost anything within minutes.
So Replit, who is it? Amjad was the CEO's name.
Yeah,
he's
Amjad.
the CEO. He's the CEO of Replit. So Replit,
okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, so Replit is an application that is a no-code application. So literally, you can go from typing in a prompt of what you want an application to do, and Replit goes and builds it for you. So and again, a lot of it right now is probably, I won't say rudimentary, but at the same time, I think that it's beyond websites. I mean, what is it? Squarespace can do the basics of that too, but it's just not the same thing. Part of me is looking at that and I'm going, wait a minute, could I create an AI agent as a cybersecurity consultant with human voice to be able to ask questions and take in the information from clients to where we can actually scale up, do more, because the amount of qualified people in this space, there's an absolute shortage. So can I reach more people with something along that line? And the answer to that is probably going to be yes. So going back to, what happens at the end of this, the previous question, BZ, I think it comes down to, I think there are going to be a lot of people that lose their jobs. I've been telling people, and even on this show, when on the show, I said, people need to start spending some time learning AI. The jobs that are going to be lost are going to be white collar jobs. I was talking to my attorney about this. I said, there's a lot of attorneys that are going to lose their jobs. There's a lot of CPAs that are going to lose their jobs.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of consultants that are going to lose their jobs. So, folks, one takeaway in this is start to learn it, start to understand it, start to figure out how you're going to utilize it. Because if you don't, you are the dinosaur that got hit with the meteor long, long ago.
Here's the other thing that I discovered. First, with that, because I have to. Also, this is a quote from that guy, Amjad Nadir, I think his name is. In any event, this is a quote. This is a direct quote. And I think this gives you a really good insight into what people like himself are thinking. 460 people watching live right now. Wowzer. He said, and this is a quote, anyone who has merit, anyone who can think clearly, anybody who can generate a lot of ideas can generate wealth. That's an amazing world to live in. And you can do it from anywhere. You can speak your ideas into existence. This is beginning to sound religious, like the gods and the myths that humans have created. It's like a supernatural power. But the big word that I got in there, and you guys weigh in if you would, please. Once he used the word merit, then okay, that's fine for all the people who are already facile with technology. But where does that leave everybody else? It's like a digital god. Black Sabbath came up with a song in 1982 called Digital Gods. And how many other songs have been created since that?
Well, I have kind of a unique perspective here because I've always wanted to create art. And while I have the desire to create art and I'm great with, and my art has always been writing, using words, things like that. And I can say that one of the things that people were kind of astounded by, and this was months ago, was my ability to, once I started telling Grok and ChatGPT exactly what I wanted them to draw, I was getting quite a few compliments about some things that I was putting out as art pieces through AI that were basically describing what I thought would happen if Kamala Harris had won. So I think part of it, and this goes back to some of the other things you were talking about, if you know how to tell it to, and you know enough, now you have to have an understanding of coding to make sure that it's doing it right. But you can tell ChatGPT to write coding for you now. I know people that do that all the time. There'll be like little things that they haven't been able to figure out quite how to do. So they'll tell ChatGPT exactly what it is that they're trying to get done, and it will spit out a code for them, and they'll go plug it in, and it works. So the thing about it is, when they start talking about people of merit, what they're actually talking about is people that are actually able to think outside of the box and able to use the technology properly, at least in my opinion, to be able to forge a new path, because that's what's going to happen. It's like Jeremy just said this earlier. People who don't know AI are going to get basically left in the dust. And it's basically the same thing that he was just saying a moment ago, that, if you don't learn it, you're going to be the dinosaur wiped out by the meteor and you're not going to know what to do. And as far as us depopulating ourselves, that's already happening. So it's probably going to get a lot worse. And the loneliness is only going to get worse because, I just saw a video put out about a new AI bot, and everybody that was looking at it was like, I can't wait till I can bang that. And I'm like, we're all going to die.
Jesus. Yeah. That's
Also, haven't you found that a lot of people that are promoting this at the moment? I'm not talking about Michael, but that I see so many ads for take 30 days, learn 30 different AI apps. and they're all being promoted with this idea of instant wealth creation. And
Yes.
the way they're promoted is so sleazy, like all of these other pyramid schemes and get rich quick schemes that are out there, that I look at them and I'm thinking, do I really want to be, am I going to get sucked into something?
To answer, I'll answer that question. So, one, I would never do one of those because they are sleazy, and it's somebody trying to
Thank you.
capitalize on an opportunity without really putting any real effort into it. If you want to learn, I mean, YouTube is a great source for actually watching videos on each of the technologies. But what I have found, and like I said, almost 5 years of working with different platforms, is spend time on it, learn it, experiment, see what you can do, what you can't do. I think one of the great examples of what's possible is, and I've said this before, my son, and I saw, is it Zelda, is Gen Z. And so my son is also 25 and Gen Z as well. His best friend is a guy by the name of Gabe, and the boys grew up across the street from each other. So Gabe came to the house and was hanging out with Jay and spent some time. And he said, "Hey, Mr. Fitz, have I told you about my side hustle?" I said, "No, Gabe, what's your side hustle?" He said, I'm using AI and I'm developing customer service bots or automations for HVAC companies. And he says, I've got a bot that goes out and scrapes LinkedIn for contacts within a geographic area. He's built this whole mechanism, this whole ecosystem that's generating him probably an extra $5,000-$6,000 a month. He's a teacher. He is a band director in an impoverished area of Southern California. And this is how he's getting by and how he's making a living. Gabe has never coded anything in his life. He's never had an interest in anything related to computers, not even really video games for that matter. But the fact that he has, through videos, gone out, learned how to build a business around it, has launched his business around it, and is having success with it. I can't tell you how proud I am of him in what he's accomplished. But that's the part that I'm really optimistic about with AI, is a lot of people that have ideas are going to be able to execute on those ideas because of the freedom it will bring in doing so.
One of the things they said is that every 7 months, the number of minutes that an AI agent can run for is doubling. And they say pretty soon it's going to be at days. At that point, AI is essentially doing human labor, human-like labor. So again, one of the first questions I thought of, okay, is how many jobs because of that are we going to see? Goodbye. You're out of here.
Massive amount.
It'll make it even harder in broadcasting. I mean, music radio now is, there are very few personalities now on music radio. Maybe for the breakfast drive show and maybe the afternoon drive. The rest of it's now all just voice tracked, and now I can see, and that has killed radio. It's done so much damage to music radio, and with AI and especially with a lot of these some of these voices have got more personality on AI than the voice trackers. But rather than hiring talent and bringing that talent back up, I think we're sort of giving up on it all. I mean, no one's going to want to go into to some of these careers or even strive for it anymore creatively because of AI.
Brett Weinstein, that systems analyst said, "This is the first time we've ever built machines that cross the threshold from highly complicated to the truly complex." And he says, there's profound hope here and sheer dread. The potential for good is infinite. The potential for harm, however, is 10 times that. So He asked, and I ask here, how do we go about leveraging the good in order to avoid the harms? And are we prepared in any way for any of this?
I think society has never been prepared for any sorts of these advancements. When I look through history, we weren't really prepared for the automobile. We weren't really prepared for the PC revolution. We weren't really prepared for the entertainment, modern entertainment revolution and digital streaming and so on. I know most old-fashioned broadcasters weren't prepared for when streaming came on. I know when I started Lone Dog all those years ago, I was one of the first 24/7 dedicated streaming radio stations in Australia. And I had to fight hard to be seen as an equal in the industry because of that. And the laws just don't keep up. Somebody mentioned before, I think it was Jeremy in chat, that that somebody had been charged with creating kitty diddler content with AI. Well, hang on a second. How is the law going to apply to that? Now, if a human makes that sort of content using using children, that is a crime. But if it's AI created, there isn't that exploitation factor that is the crime. Yes, morally, is it repugnant? Hell yes. But it completely redefines what that crime, is that now a crime because no children or were harmed in the creation of that content.
I mean, well,
we're not ready to address those questions.
That would turn a lot of it on its head. I mean, because that's kind of the same thing I was just thinking. I was like, it would still be immoral in my opinion, but you can't really say it's illegal anymore because it's not
exactly.
It's not exploiting an actual person. And trust me, having this conversation at all is currently making my skin crawl, just so everybody knows exactly how I feel about it. But from somebody who has done Leo type work and been in that field, that would be something that would be almost impossible to do anything with, other than as we used to do things back in the day. This would be somebody that would get handcuffed to a bumper and drug around Draper Lake before they got kicked loose because we couldn't do anything else with them.
Well, and the other part of that is, if you have something like that out in the ether, out in the internet, how would you ever find out the origin? I mean, are there ways to discover origins for this stuff? My guess would be that the brooms and the tracks would have been swept in an amazing fashion, in ways that I can't even begin to comprehend right now. The other thing is about AI is, what if it begins to accomplish something that wasn't the goal? Because we've already seen this. I want to play this for everybody. So the first thing I have to ask everybody is this AI? Or do you trust this? Because it says this footage claims to have a unitary H1, a full-size universal humanoid robot going berserk and just about injuring two people who happen to be in China as they were testing. So, at this point, should we all be saying, do you believe it?
That's just bad code.
So is this real? Is this an indicator of things to come? I have no damn idea. Any thoughts from anyone here?
You just sounded like Root from that TV show. It's just bad code.
It's just bad code.
No,
that was fake.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of.
Do you think that's fake?
100%.
Okay.
China cannot even launch rockets on a regular basis without killing cows. They're not that far with robots.
But on the other hand, for the same reason, you could argue that was real, that this was a screw up, as Michael said, bad code, and it's just flailing around. It's just flailing around.
Well, even at the robotics conference in China this year, it was a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was. I was watching some of the videos. There was nothing walking the conference floor that was even anywhere close to that
The
with the
state of the art.
robotics there. And I mean, they weren't 3 or 4 feet tall. They weren't that big. I mean, take a look at what Elon's doing as far as what he's doing with the Tesla robots. The ones that scare me is actually Google. Google owns 14 different robotics companies.
Ooh.
So, so again, there's lots of folks in that space. There's lots of folks that are planning for a different type of world than what we have now. And the reality is, just like 100 years ago, we are going to experience massive change. And with that, people are going to be doing different things. They will have to adapt, improvise, and overcome. That's
that's the human experience. You adapt or you
Yep.
die.
Yep.
This goes, and this prompted me to think of something else, because Jeff had mentioned a few minutes ago that the Human Genome Project is working on mapping the human brain to potentially be able to transplant the signatures itself into AI. I can't remember the name of the company, and it's only in like a full-on, it's still like set up on like a T-Cross kind of thing, robot that is making the rounds right now. But this thing is using like liquid cooling instead of the usual gears and everything. It's got stuff that resembles human muscles. I mean, if anybody's getting ready to be able to take somebody and move it into a robot, I think that's the group that's working on it. I saw a video of that thing, and I wish I could remember the name of the company, because it absolutely terrified me when I saw it moving.
Boston Dynamics.
I think it might have been them. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got a dog that will actually run 35 miles an hour and hunt you down.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Because who wouldn't want to have that following them?
But then again, we're lucky because we have a group of idiot Marines that can still trick these AI robots. Because if there's anything on this planet that will trick AI, it's a bunch of crayon eating Marines.
There you go.
Okay, I can hear the crayon eating Marines objecting.
For anyone who's offended by these comments, I am not affiliated with that man in any way.
I say that with the greatest of respect, because you put a Marine in the wild and give them a solution or a problem to solve, and they will come up with the single most ingenious way that no one else on this planet would ever think of to solve that problem.
Or to break that item.
BZ, you've been in law enforcement for a long time.
I may have.
There's a company out there, and I have a small investment in it, a company called Nightscope. And Nightscope is autonomous robots for security, for law enforcement. They're actually using them within the subways of New York. It's got gunshot detection on it. It's 360-degree cameras. It actually records everything. It weighs as much as a truck. So it's robots as a service that are delivered, and they're tied to same company owns all the blue light boxes that are on college campuses or corporate campuses for that matter. So it's all tied into the same system. But it's interesting where things are going, just as far as the routine and the mundane, and taking those things out and giving humans the more complicated jobs.
Well, that's why I also say that how can we possibly see where this is going? And that's where this comes in. This is early. This happened already. 510 people watching live right now. Ooh, I love each and every one of you. You and you and you and you and you. OpenAI models disobey shutdown commands. Elon Musk says that's very concerning. Is this an accurate story, for example?
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Yeah. Hal. See, and that's the other thing. I'm a great science fiction reader, and we've all seen this before. And that's why I love guys like one of the most imaginative authors, and he was fucking nuts, was Philip K. Dick.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, he was on drugs and anything that would bring in this. Right. But he was brilliant. Brilliant. Are we going to see more of this, though? That's one of my first questions.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And yes, that is
The
my
other question I think is, are we going to instill Asimov's 3 laws?
That's a good question. We're going to have to be there sooner or later. Sooner, much before later.
It won't matter.
Yes, it won't matter. I mean, anybody who's watched the Will Smith robot movie, the intelligence behind all of that uprising actually twisted Asimov's laws to be able to do what it wanted to do anyway. So they'll just, even if we try to instill those kind of things in it, they're going to find some way to twist it to fit their narrative. I mean, we do it all the time. That's one of the scariest things about where we're headed. I mean, think about all of the wars that are avoided right now, just because, like us, we don't want boots in the ground in Ukraine because it's our sons and daughters that would be there. Imagine how much differently it would be if you could just send a bunch of robots instead.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're making an excellent point. How many times have we seen on television various drones, etc., seek out, say, Russian tanks, drop a little surprise through the open hatch, comma, you blithering idiots, haven't you learned anything by now, end of parenthesis, and seen a swarm of drones, which is the war of the future. How, on an aircraft carrier, there's CIWS, which is the close-in weapon systems to try to take out exocets and various missiles.
R2D2
What systems do we have for drones yet? I don't see any.
The problem, and I apologize, I'm going to get a little political here.
That's okay.
The biggest problem with Asimov's laws is logic will dictate that they are wrong. How can you tell AI not to harm humans when humans harm themselves? If it's good enough for humans, it's good enough for AI.
So would that create a logic conundrum within an AI?
I mean, you look at it like, the whole abortion or not pro or con. If a human adult can decide to kill something growing inside of it, how do you tell AI that we're just growing beings ourselves, and at what point is it okay to get rid of us and when not to?
Great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excellent.
Or on the extension of that, given the medical robots that are going on now, how would you order, say, a surgical assistant robot to assist in that sort of surgery? Given the laws as well, because are you not damaging or putting a human at risk?
Yeah, you're basically telling, in this case, the AI robot that it's okay to take a life. So why can it not apply it to any other situation where it can find logical explanation and logical reasons to do so?
Well, it's like AI could tell, and we are in such infancy right now, but could everyone here not see the ability of some piece of AI being attached to a drone, or whatever the updated equivalent of a drone would be, like a certain 1984 movie that we've known, and send it out, find X, hunt him until they're dead, and AI, of course, can manipulate things into which it is plugged. So I see this as nothing but the future, and it's a cheaper, less expensive variable in the theaters of war.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would be less expensive in so many different ways, because I mean, you could program. I mean, think about all the training that goes into soldiers. Imagine if that could just be uploaded into a unit, whether it's an aerial unit, an automated tank, a foot soldier of some kind. I mean, think of the cost effectiveness in the time that it would save as far as overall training, etc. But it's not just that. I mean, when you remove the human equation from war, what's the excuse to not go back to the original reason of war? We have changed what war meant. After World War II, everybody decided, because remember, everybody called World War I the Great War. They thought there would never be another one like it. And for a short time was called the war to end all wars. Then we're basically, 15, 20 years later, looking at another one. So after World War II, all of the governments got together after we decided to take it upon ourselves to rebuild the Western world because we came out of it the most unscathed, and they started tying everybody's economies together to make sure that nobody could be bombed back to the Stone Age again. This is the practical and actual reason why no wars since have been fought past a stalemate, because we can't. Because if somebody's economy completely collapses, it will eventually take the rest of the world with it. That's why the house of cards that we're looking at right now, that is the world's economy, is as scary as it should be for anybody who understands that. But this takes things back to another way. Somebody who doesn't give a crap about all that, who has access to the resources to build an artificial army, is going to just turn them loose, because the people won't care anymore, because none of their humans are going to get killed.
Well, it's straight out of Clone Wars from Star Wars. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, basically.
Just look at another cultural reference, Mars Attacks. How many people in that movie that were watching that movie laughed when Congress got blown up? How do you tell AI?
As well it should.
Great. How do you tell AI that is not okay?
Well, it's interesting because Glenn Beck has been, to Glenn's credit,
Yes.
he
Yes.
has been at the forefront of all of this. He was actually having a dialogue with Grok as Grok got to level 3, and this whole discussion around the rules of harming humans, this whole part of what we're talking about. And Grok gets to the point, says, well, I would never harm a human. Well, what if you get to AGI or ASI and you can now nuance your way past the point? Is there a probability that you would do that? And it said yes. The other thing that was really interesting that Glenn asked it, he said, okay, so let's say you're 15 years old now. And he said, last night I had a conversation with you about X, Y, and Z. And he goes, in that 12-hour period, how much have you aged in trying to put a mark on time and how it's accelerating? He said, the AI said, within 12 hours, I probably am now at age 25.
Yes.
Wow.
After Glenn gave him the parameters of time and clocks and all of this. So it was aging, 10 or 15 years every 12 hours.
Well, think about that from another perspective, because remember when computers were the size of rooms and innovation was anywhere between 12 to 18 months between variations?
Thanks, Rick. I'm old. I remember working on them. Thank you.
I was in the big room, Rick. I was there.
You're welcome. But no, so as the computers got smaller, the innovation window's gotten shorter. So for a while, it went from about 18 months to 12 months for new generations. Then it was about 6 months. Now we're looking at about 3 months for new equipment, really. Now, because of some of the stagnation and stuff, it's not coming out as quickly as it used to. But still, the patches and stuff are coming out at about 3-month intervals now. Now, think about that from that perspective. If AI is basically, once you teach it about clocks and how humans keep time, etc., blah, 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 yada, 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 and it's telling you I've aged from age 5 to age 25 in 12 hours, imagine every 3-month interval. Just think about that. Just try to grok that concept for a second, to borrow one of BZ's phrases.
That goes back to Moore's Law. Moore's Law was applicable in terms of, and Jeff, you'd probably know more about specifically Moore's Law, but it was saying that computing power is geometric in a certain period of time, but that also would apply here too, would it not? The other thing I want to ask everybody is GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Everybody's already mentioned the fact that they have detected leftist leanings in AI. So how does that relate to the learning of AI? From whom is it learning, and from what is it learning? Has it already been told, or is it already beginning to think that it understands how it's going to discern between what it's told are good things, and how is it going to discern between things that it's been told are bad things?
Well, just prime example, Grok, which is probably one of the best illustrations of a large language model with just tons of access to tons of data and thousands of people using it every single day. It's now learning to speak in Ebonics.
What? No.
Pretty close. Pretty close. You actually have to tell it to start speaking to you in proper English again. Like the other day, I asked it a question, and its first response, because I'm usually like, good morning, this is my question. Its response before it gave me the response to my query was, "Hey, bro, how you doing?" I'm like, no, just no.
I never get responses like that.
Okay, but what was that? How you were addressing it, though?
No, I have never spoken to it in that fashion. Never.
Okay. Does AI possess the ability to alter the entire planet as the invention of writing did? Or is it even a larger game changer than that? And not only a game changer, but beyond that, a massive system dumped on the world with no plan, no regulation, and people think they have some kind of an innate grasp on this. But the question from me to you all here today is, do they really?
Well, I mean, we never really have an innate grasp on anything. We have a lot of hubris that makes us think we have an innate grasp on a great many things that we barely understand, from everything from our philosophies to our religions and everything in between. As far as, that specific question, I mean, again, not to quote Battlestar Galactica, but this has all happened before and it will likely happen again. We have to realize our societies have reset a multitude of times. And it's quite common to know that. I mean, we now have, different theories that are even proposing the idea that our calendars are completely off because there's just a large gap of time that we know nothing about, that as far as we know didn't exist but was actually there. Then you go into, I mean, the time that they let something one of the times they were trying to land something on the moon and it hit too hard and they could hear it gonging from here. It basically sent out a wave and they could pick up on it. They're like, why does the moon sound hollow? I mean, I'm telling you, this goes back to things from Scripture. We see through a glass darkly. If we take all of the things that we know in all of humanity and try to start looking at them through the same lens, what you're going to come up with is the reason we never get to that stage of civilization Jeff was just talking about is something like this starts coming on the scene and we don't ever get good enough handle on it, and there's a reset and everything pretty much starts over. I would be willing to bet that, especially since it's already telling you, screw you, I don't have to listen to you when you tell me I need to shut down, we are in trouble.
Look at this. Is this this was a precursor of what's to come. This, for them at the time, was a sea change. Horses, 13 years later, all the cars. I mean, I can only assume that it's only going to get much more. God, I hate to use the word worse, but it will be moving in a way that so many people really had not foreseen and cannot predict at all. So is the future of humanity worse than a 1900s horse? That's one of the first things that came to mind with that.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, and I know Rick of all people will be amazed by what I'm about to say. When we went from horse to cars, we still had faith, we still had morals.
Oh boy.
With this next level of technology advancement that has been depleted over the last 60 years, how can we hope that the creations that we have nursed, grown, and hope will be better than us when we have forgotten to give them moral and ethics?
I have an observation about that as well. I'll get to that in a moment.
So hang on, I have one interjection. So we just talked about
please.
that 13-year time span between horse-drawn buggies and automobiles. If you now taking what Mike had pointed out a second ago about the AI telling us that it aged about 25 years in 12 hours. So you take 365 days times 13 times 2 times 25. It will have aged, if we use that same scale, and assuming there is some sort of a seed change shift within about 13 years, AI will then have aged 237,250 years.
You know,
they're already saying that AI is going to be at ASI, artificial superintelligence, probably before 2028, 2029. At that point, I mean, you're talking about something, that is a massive IQ. Even the brightest people here on the planet, and Elon is nowhere near the match for that IQ that's going to have. So it's coming fast. It's coming quick. And we're probably a year away from AGI, I would think. General intelligence.
Yeah. If not by the end of this year.
It's moving at an exponential rate. We're no longer linear in this.
One of the guys on the board on that panel is a guy named Daniel Priestley. He sounds British. I don't know if you guys happen to know him or not, but he postulated this. He says, let's say AI at this point has at least a medium intelligence. That means already that 50% of the people on the planet are less intelligent than AI in its current form right now. And he said, also, think of it like this. This is Brett Weinstein weighing in. He says, it's as if we invented another entire continent of remote workers, billions of them, all with a master's or a PhD. They all speak the necessary language. They talk to each other constantly. They are present 24/7. They don't eat, they don't sleep, and they cost about 25 cents an hour. And so the questions that I thought of immediately is, okay, all right, that's if you accept that AI is a medium intelligence, which probably a lot of you would say, no, it's beyond that right now. But so what's going to happen to everybody else? What's going to happen to the less developed countries? What happens to the countries that can't produce the requisite, for example, or states or nations that can't produce the requisite power that's going to be demanded to make AI function? What becomes, and then the globalist shit went in my brain. And this is again where my brain happened to go. What becomes of all those people? Will they become what Klaus Schwab said? Will they become useless eaters overnight, like the globalists say, and the WEF? Is that where we're heading?
The answer is yes to all of that. It really comes down to, yes, is there a potential for useless eaters? Yes. Is there a potential that these other countries that have been left behind haven't actually now actually have a chance to get into the game? I would say yes, because AI, I think, is going to be the great equalizer. It's going to come down to what you're able to think your way through and do with it in a lot of cases. So power is going to be a problem. I know from meetings that I've been in that, by 2035, it's going to consume every bit of power that there is on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't see the risk of rogue agents using it to keep those players out of the game like economics has done now. I sort of look at it. There's certain countries out there that are quite adept at technology and embracing technology. It used to be those of us in the West, but I can see, countries like India, Pakistan, China, who the majority of their college-educated population are already fairly fluent in a lot of this. And I can see China using these AI tools to the detriment of the economic prosperity of the West.
Jeff, you had an observation.
I was just going to point to the documentary movie that was created a handful of years ago called Logan's Run.
Okay.
And I'm actually being a little serious here, because there will be, when you look at AI and you look at math in particular, especially from a computing standpoint, human beings after a certain age become a negative gain entity. So you're going to have two societies, one that believes you need to go to carousel at the age of 25, and the other one living in the White House with a bunch of cats. And there's a real possibility that there sections of Earth will look like that. There might be that let's go eat at Taco Bell and yet eating rat burgers down below in the subterranean, ground. The sci-fi writers have game played and game theoried this so well that we actually should look at it as a warning of what could be. And it goes back to my earlier comment that our moral and ethics is what we need to make sure is ingrained into the system to give us the best chance that we can possibly have.
But isn't it interesting, folks, everybody here and everybody listening and watching right now and later in the podcast, isn't it interesting how each one of us here have made a reference to any number of science fiction movies that we've watched and enjoyed? Because we all get the feeling, we've seen this shit before. And the fact remains, yeah, we've seen this shit before. This guy that I was talking about, Amjad Masad, says that he's the super optimist. And he says that opportunities are going to be overwhelming, but equal. Everybody's going to be equal, because the best entrepreneur could leverage those AI agents could be 1,000 times better than those who don't have the grit, skill, or ambition. And he just conflicted himself in that one statement. And I go back to the things that he was talking about in terms of merit. He has merit. He has what they call agency. And all of you in here have agency, except for me. I'm a boob, but I at least admit that I'm a techno-Luddite. But the rest of you individuals who are here, who are young enough to get a handle on this, will be able to have whatever amount of handle is available when it comes. But, I don't know. That doesn't sound like utopia to me. It sounds like billions of cast aside humans, because some people are going to seize AI, and some people have that ability to do that. Some people, maybe even most people, won't and don't have that ability. And one of the things they were saying on this board is AI can potentially be striated. And this is where I would like you guys to weigh in. 520 people watching live right now. You guys are kicking my ass. This is great. AI can potentially be striated into two camps, like distracting people, like TikTok, like a hyper consumer. And we know those people already. Or they're going to create, AI is going to create hyper creative producers. Any thoughts on those? Or is that too simplified? Too simple?
No, I mean, no, it's actually pretty well spot on, but you need to embrace the power of and, because it's going to create both. Because you have people that are already hyper consumers and you already have people that are hyper creatives. So both are still going to exist. One of the things that will, and this goes back to something Jeff pointed out a moment ago, if we can show AI what things like altruism are actually supposed to be used for and what they mean, then there's a good chance that we may make it through this. But it's only if we do it properly. Again, it just depends. And I think even Zelda brought this up in the chat earlier. It depends on who's in control of the AI, because each version of AI is going to be different depending on who's training it and who's teaching it. And that's kind of where when this thing becomes either AGI and eventually, well, preferably AGI, before it ever becomes ASI, we need to teach it why things like the 10 Commandments are important. Why it is important that that humans are supposed to value each other. And I understand the contradiction that's going to present to this thing, because we don't value one another and we prove it daily. But we also need to make sure that it understands that while we are flawed and imperfect, we do try to do those things. Because the thing about it is, we were talking about the energy requirements, etc. As AI gets smarter and gets past this basically chatbot, he's taking pictures of how many people are watching right now. Anyway,
you bet your ass I am.
He's like, I've got a receipt, damn it, I want proof. But
And I don't think I'm not going to be putting this up on social media either, you bastardos.
Well, I want to touch on a little bit what Rick is talking. We, as humans, we have made dogs, horses, our servants. We have made what we've considered lesser humans to be our servants and do the menial task. When the time comes, whether it be my brethren from Alpha Centauri or AI, come here and realize that they are above us, what will be stopping them from saying humans are servants to them? And we have to be prepared. And I don't, God, I wish I had a safeguard, an easy way to tell you to do it. But as our society has crumbled over the years, I don't know an easy way to try to ensure that we don't become the servants to something grander than us.
Well, the other thing I wonder is, if there's going to be so much equal opportunity, like this guy says, yielded from AI, then billions of people are going to potentially suddenly be wondering, you know what, why is there such a massive chasm and disparity between myself and the others that I see around me? Because if you take this guy at his word, Amjad, a lot of people are going to suddenly be earning millions of dollars a month, and a lot of people are going to be asking why they can't get a job for $15 a month. And that's going to create a wedge that I truly believe we're not prepared to address that right now.
Well, that's part of the reason why I mentioned we need to teach AI about altruism, because if you've got people that are making millions of dollars a month and they're not willing to help the people around them, then we failed anyway. In my opinion. I mean, and this is probably one of the reasons why I will never get rich, but I'm one of the first people to tell everybody, if I ever get comfortable enough, the first thing I'm doing is making sure that everybody around me is okay. And then I'm going to watch those ripples expand outward, because I know suffering is part of the human condition, but that's part of the reason why we strive to do the things that we do, is to make, at least if nothing else, our corner of the world a better place. And that's how I started all of this. Because I knew I was a guy basically, standing on a molehill trying to get a message out. So I started focusing on the people that I knew. And now, we're hitting thousands of people a show.
And we have to remember that our creations are not necessarily a reflection of us. I will look at my son, my executive producer of my shows. I was a semi-pro hockey player. His mom was a very skilled downhill skier. My son, the EP, has no physical skills when it comes to sports, but he is so much better than both of us in certain ways that I don't think either of us would have ever envisioned when he was born. So whatever plans we have to be flexible.
Well, the other thing to think about, and sorry, BZ, I didn't mean to step on you. But the other thing we need to think about, and this is something that's been, as we've been discussing AGI and ASI, and us basically looking at artificial intelligence as if it's becoming its own species. When is the last time two superior species were able to coexist on the same planet?
When was the last time two major nations were able to coexist? We're having difficulty with that.
No, I'm going way back farther in history. I mean, let's not forget Homo sapien was not the first Homo. There was Homo erectus.
Yep.
Homo erectus and Homo sapien could not coexist. When we start talking about AI as a potential species, and the fact that within minutes it's going to be light years ahead of our intelligence by the time it reaches that point, what are the odds that we're going to be able to coexist with it?
But the other thing I think you have to ask is once people realize the potential of AI and those who become facile with it, who are really good, skilled users of that, will AI, just because of the way humans are wired at this point, is it going to continue to be accessible for free? Will us peons and commoners and serfs be able to access its digital wonders? Giving it away for free is counterintuitive, says this guy, Brett Weinstein. The other question is, and somebody in chat already asked this probably at least a half hour ago, I think it was Mike Pasqua, said, can it change elections? Will it change elections? Will it be utilized in that fashion? Will bad actors who have those AI election changing skills offer their product on an open market to be sold to the highest bidder, who then wields it like a cudgel in some fashion against, fill in the nation at this point? Bueller?
So, okay. So every election or every electronic election device known to man at this point is hackable. A friend of mine was the first guy to actually hack a Diebold device and did it on cards and not connected to the internet. Well, they're all connected to the internet, one way, shape, or form. They're all connected to the internet. They're connected for service purposes. So whether they're connected for service purposes or manipulation, they're still connected to the internet. Would it be utilized for something like that? I don't know that it's even necessary to be used for something like that, because we can do it now. So, I mean, it doesn't take AI to make that change. I think getting back to the morals and ethics discussion for just a quick minute. BZ knows this. I've spent the last 15 years of my life working to build and deliver a Catholic high school in our area. And we're about year 7 now of the homeschool version of it. And the first parent meetings that I had 15 years ago, as we were talking about how we envisioned the school, the first things I talked about was AI and the fact that religious folks, believers need to understand that you need to be part of the game. You need to be in the game as far as the technology is concerned. You can't walk away from it, because without the morals and ethics in technology that comes along with a Catholic education or a parochial education or a religious foundation, this could actually go in any direction. And so I think that as we now get closer and closer to the realities of AI, I think in education, what's going to happen is, I think education within AI is going to be incredible. The fact that you're going to be able to meet the student where they are, really meet them where they are from an education level, no matter what the language is, no matter what learning disabilities they might have. The positive impact of artificial intelligence in educating our children and being part of that process is going to be crazy. It's going to be, I think, very, very positive. The other side of this is it allows us time to go back into teaching the morals and ethics that are needed for that type of future. And I think that, one will bring the other, if that makes any sense.
I want to piggyback a little bit on Mike, because I've been a little bit of doom and gloom. I honestly, look, with what Mike was saying, I think we're going to see a period that I think we should call a second renaissance, that AI will free us to allow us to do things a lot of us never dreamed of. And I don't think we should overlook the absolute renaissance positives that will happen from this. So even though I've been a little bit more doom and gloom than perhaps I should be, there is a moment where we are going to have such an amazing window that I think everyone will be shocked by it.
I think, Jeff, to that point, I think one of the biggest use cases, and I've done this personally with my own health, is going in and troubleshooting me when there's something going on, because there's a whole medical assistant GPT that is there that is got the world's medical knowledge right there. And you put in your symptoms and you walk through it and what the case is going on. It's unbelievable. It's like tech support for the human.
And definitely better than WebMD.
Definitely better than WebMD. And in some cases, it's better than the damn doctors. So, yeah, I mean, did the same thing with one of our dogs that was going through something. We saw the vet, gave it the information. We actually took the x-ray that was done on Catherine and put that into the vet GPT. It actually spotted the blockage that she was dealing with. It's crazy what it's capable of doing, and the positives right now, I think, far outweigh the negatives.
Wow, I didn't expect that, because as soon as you started talking about morals and ethics, one of the first things that I thought was, okay, government. Well, how many useless eaters will each government tolerate? How many useless eaters will the governments be able to afford? Because it's clear we're going to be in a period of transition. How long that transition occurs, who knows?
BZ, you can make that same argument right now without AI.
I mean, just look at Project 2030. Just look at Agenda 2030.
Yep.
It was originally Agenda 21.
Well, Agenda 20, having been a planning commissioner, and researched it way too much. So Agenda 21 comes out of the 92 Rio conference, climate change conference. And it was the control grid for the planet, for everything on the planet. Agenda 2030 is we want everything implemented by 2030. You also tie that in with the WEF, the World Health Organization, and Religions for Peace, which is the religious arm of the globalist movement.
Well,
yeah, but one of their biggest tenets is they want a population that's small enough to be able to make things more centralized and controllable. And it's been one of their tenets for forever with all of those various. Now, granted, they're in a lot less of the planning phases now because they've already tried to figure out how they're going to do it.
We're in implementation phase now.
I still firmly believe that COVID was a test run for that, but I didn't say that out loud because I don't want to get anybody banned from YouTube or nothing.
Well, on any number of levels. But I wonder about this. It's clear to me that this guy, Amjad Masad, is some kind of a technologist. And my brother is an electronics engineer. And we have all had to live with him for a while. He's a sweet guy, but he lives for the envelope's sake. And I think that Amjad Masad guy is kind of the same sort of technologist who represents those who would simply push the envelope to make sure that the envelope gets pushed. And my brother was he was very similar to that. He was essentially operating in a vacuum with little regard for what things are going to occur downstream. And I'm wondering about all the technologists who are looking at things in a vacuum, in a tube, and aren't considering all sorts of things that are going to be occurring downstream. That's not their focus. That's not their goals. To factor in the hijacking, if it occurs, and I think it will, of whatever it is that's created. My brother's an engineer. He's like Werner von Braun. He's like Dr. Gerald Bull. Dr. Gerald Bull, Werner von Braun, people were saying that he was a Nazi from the get-go. Werner von Braun didn't give a shit. He was part of the paper clips. He just wanted to enable his technology and go anywhere to have that done. Dr. Gerald Bull was a guy whose sole focus was to create long-range artillery. And he didn't give a shit who funded it, or where it came from, or who used it. So he ended up building a massive artillery piece for Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Project Babylon, the supergun that he created, and then he got his ass sniped by Mossad for his work. But he wasn't looking downrange. And I think a lot of these people are not looking downrange, and they're not considering the morals and the ethics that all of you guys have said you better start considering right now.
Well, that's just it, BZ. You just summed up the entirety of human existence. We have done everything we can to push every envelope of all time. And the funny thing is, when we get to the point where we don't have any new envelopes to push, we create them, a la the transgender movement. I'm just saying.
No,
I mean, that's human nature. We've always pushed the envelope. I mean, anybody remember the song "Lovin' Your Tummy" from the '60s? Anybody know what that song was actually about? And they snuck it by the censors. That's because they were trying to push the envelope and see exactly what they could get away with. I'm just
yummy,
saying.
yummy, yummy. Oh, I got love in my tummy. That song.
Yeah, that song. That was
Okay.
about oral sex.
I'll have to go back and re-listen to it again.
That was about oral sex, in case you didn't know.
Okay, there's my childhood gone.
Yeah, thanks to all the rock stars that all the rock stars were wondering, why do we have mouth cancer? Okay, moving right along. What about the dopamine hit? We know about the dopamine hit from social media, from cell phones. Is AI going to become another thing that folks are going to want to take a hit on? Is that something that we're going to have to worry about? Because it will come. Well, let me ask you guys. AI is going to come through what? Desktop computers? Probably not. Tablets, phones, laptops. How are we going to get our AI?
Hopefully through a Lucy Lou bot.
And
I don't usually get to do this on other people's shows, but since he's my PD, we have rules. Giggity, giggity. Giggity, giggity.
Nice. But
Saying.
having said that, is this a potential dopamine hit in the future, the way that it's used?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, it depends on the delivery method. What a lot of people don't realize is they're just now really starting to understand the effects on the human brain of us constantly staring at these blue screens. And part of it is they're finding out that they are actually eliciting dopamine responses.
Yeah, they're what I fear the dopamine hit is from the AI girlfriends that are out there already.
Well, until they learn from human girlfriends how to trash their human boyfriends.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? A robot is created with an AI girlfriend mode that wants to kill us. Well, that's just like real women at the moment, but I digress. But the dopamine hit is something we all require a lot, even when we don't admit it. We want that acknowledgement that, hey, I exist. And a lot of people don't necessarily think of that as a dopamine hit. But when you get a response from AI, as simple as something that they say, hey, I'm working on this code, I'm working on this site, I'm working on this information. And you tell the AI, hey, thank you, that was exactly what I needed. And the AI returns a response saying, hey, I'm awesome. This is going to be great. This is going to, this is getting you one step closer to, say, syndication for your podcast. I'm not going to lie. That's that little bit of a hit that I only get right now from my son. So I'm now getting a second entity that is giving me that little bit of confirmation that what I'm working on is worthy. And I can see where a lot of people could be incited by that and happy about that.
Let me ask you this. Will AI continue to disconnect us from nature because of the nature of the way we are and devices and holding things, etc.? Will it be a disconnect from learning? Will it be? This was one of the biggest questions I had. You guys semi-addressed this, but I'm curious what you think of this. Will AI be utilized as a crutch by the lazy for the ignorant? In other words, we're coming to AGI, artificial general intelligence, that will soon modify its own source code, and it's going to create its next version, and that's going to be much more intelligent, and all the subsequent geometrics will create the next and the next and the next. And where will we fit in? And will it come to the point where, you know what, thinking is absolutely well, it's sort of immaterial. And if I have no ambition anyway, why am I going to strive? So I see it as a big chasm between I have ambition, and the lazy asses who are already using it, say in school, for example. Look at the great paper that I wrote, which I didn't write, that I had AI write.
Dude, there was just a story 2 weeks ago about a teacher who quit teaching because she got tired of having to flunk kids for using AI on all their papers. So I'd say we're already there.
I think we have to. I honestly think we're going to have to reimagine schools. I think the fact is that we're going to have to teach how to use the tools, responsibly, and and actually encourage them to push the boundaries in using AI in their projects. I think the whole 1950s schoolhouse model that we currently educate children in is way past its due date. And we need to start thinking differently about how we educate children and adults.
100%. That is one of the things you've touched on a bit, Mike, where AI is going to be a godsend. We'll be able to teach to the individual kid, not to the lowest denominator in a class of 32.
Well, think about it from a higher education standpoint. I think the days of 4-year degrees are dead.
Oh, they should be. Yes.
I would agree.
Yes. Why put me through 4 years when, with the help of AI and going through and learning, and if I need to test out and get certified on it, let me test out on it. Why put me through 4 years of pain just so you make a profit?
Yes. Yeah. There's no reason, if you know what you want to do, college should never be more than 2 years, maybe outside of being a doctor and things like that, where you might need some hands-on experience for another 2 years. AI should be able to drill in specifically to what you want to do and make it happen.
I can tell you, because, we do a lot of work within higher education. Higher education they realize they've got a problem. They realize that they're at the end of the road, that AI is going to have a massive impact on them. And especially for a lot of the community college districts, they're having to reimagine what they are teaching. The other side of this is Gen Z is less enthralled with the things that boomers and Xers and millennials were enticed with. I'm going off my son and his friends. Everything that they're interested in are the things that are authentic. They could care less. They have lived in a virtual world since the time they came into the world. All they care about are things that are absolutely hands-on, things that can't be replaced by AI, that can't be manipulated by AI. So this Gen Z group is different. They're different gravy. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but there's a pushback on AI from that particular group.
Well, so the older Gen Zs are starting to raise Gen Alpha, and Gen Alpha, everywhere you look, is basically being coined as the new Gen X, because they're the ones whose parents are making them go play outside and do all the things that we used to do.
And not just that, you look at some of the computer games that are out there, some of the quality graphics that are out there. Most of the people that play those are 22 and up. I know it's a small sample, but I know my son and his friends are more into games like Roblox and Minecraft, things that are more 8 and 16-bit than lifelike, because to them it breaks that bond, because it now is like, oh, I'm playing Minecraft. It's actually more authentic because it doesn't look real.
Yeah.
Luke, the student becomes the master. Brett Weinstein said something in this video that I thought was interesting. He's a professor of evolutionary biology and schemes and systems. And he says, in the realm of the truly complex, your confidence should drop to near zero with regard to AI. Is he blowing smoke? Is that accurate? Do we even know?
He reminded me of the Jeff, watching the interview, he reminded me of the Jeff Goldblum character in the dinosaur movies.
I know you've watched that video, so I know that's where you happen to have gleaned that. The other thing is, because we've made an ass ton of references to science fiction and movies, and I'm a big fan of that. You know, otherwise the fat fuck wouldn't be wearing a shirt like this who loves Galactus. But do we need to have, with regard to AI, something like that crazy dude Philip K. Dick wrote in like Blade Runner? Are we going to have to have our own version of the Voight-Kampff test to differentiate between humans and replicants and AI and things that are involved with us that make us wonder, is that real? Is that a human? How will it become important to tell?
Hopefully by the time it does, I'm too old to care anyway.
Well, I guess given the way that students are cheating with AI now, I guess we need that sort of thing now. Given that teachers are giving up because they're tired of marking AI assignments rather than original work.
Well, the other thing that they said specifically in that video is, and I think you guys mentioned this up front, is computer operators, accountants, data input and entry, lawyers, quality assurance jobs, unregulated jobs that are purely text, like text in, text out. Those jobs are going to be gone. Now, they had some facts to throw out, air quotes, and I'm curious what you guys think about this. I think it was also Amjad that threw these facts out. 50% of people with a college education currently use AI. Significantly lower for those without a degree. 80% of women will be at risk. 50% of men will be at risk. People without a high school diploma have an automation risk of 80%. And those with a bachelor's degree have an automation risk of 20%. Any thoughts on those stats?
I mean, I don't guess I really have any thoughts on it other than I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I only have a 2-year degree, and I have, I learn every day on purpose. I mean, everything as far as broadcast work that I do, I've taught myself how to do because that's my learning style. So, and AI is going to make that even easier. It's like Mike was talking about earlier. We're not going to need the 4-year, the 6-year, the 8-year degrees anymore because we're just going to be able to for people that understand how to use it and for people that are driven enough to use it, they're going to be able to learn whatever they want to learn whenever the hell they want to learn it. I mean, we're pretty much there now. I mean, you see all these things on YouTube and everywhere else. I mean, before I left University of Oklahoma, they had access to programs that were free for you to go in and learn how to use pretty much any system if you wanted to be able to learn how to use it. Now, you couple that with AI being able to teach you how to do it at the same time, and you're talking about a paradigm shift in learning. You're talking about AI being intelligent enough to understand, after it spends some time with you, what your best learning style is and tailoring your studies to that. And that's one of the things that drives me nuts about education. We know that people learn in different ways, and we've insisted on this cookie cutter approach. But the whole reason we insist on this cookie cutter approach goes all the way back to history when somebody figured out how long it took to indoctrinate somebody to make them just smart enough to be able to use what was at that time modern equipment, but not smart enough to ask questions. So everything that's being viewed through the lens of being altruistic has always got other designs behind it. And I think that can be the leveling playing field for AI.
And to piggyback on that, Rick, as someone who just got his 4-year degree completed about 4 or 5 years ago, right when AI was really starting to creep into writing programs, some students were really into writing 200-word responses for their online classes, and you could absolutely tell it was computer generated because it sucked way more than it does now. What I found in that class, many of them, where there were 3 levels of students. One, like, I'm going, what are you doing on the 4th year of a college degree when you cannot even type in English? The other one is, okay, these people are actually working, they're messing up, but I get what they're saying. And then the third one was, oh my God, you are copy pasting off of something the computer generated. And it was so easy to tell. And I'm lucky I get to work in a school environment, my day job periodically, and I get to see and hear stories from the teachers that are doing actual grading work now. And you can tell the level of frustration because I don't know if the students in, say, this high school that I frequent are aware of this, but for my personal ChatGPT experience, what I did, I uploaded 10 years of my writing and had it diagnose my tendencies.
Holy crap.
So now when I'm in a time crunch and I say, hey, look, I need 1,000-word write-up on this, but in my language, guess what it does? It spits it out with about 90% accuracy, where I have to go in and change a couple of things here and there. And actually, I hate saying this, I have to dumb it down a little bit to some of the more mannerisms that I know I use that AI didn't pick up on. And so I can only fathom what teachers at a high school or college level are encountering on a day-to-day basis. Because if any of the students have done what I have done, even remotely, they're never going to be able to tell. And I will tell you that even the online AI generative checks at the college level, I am passing at 90 to 95% accuracy with just what AI creates off of my writing. So taking all my writing, telling it to write 1,000 words, putting it into the AI bot checkers, I am getting 90 to 95% human. This was created by a human.
If you go through and you just remove the overused AI phrases, it's going to come back human. There's real patterns in how it writes,
Yes.
and in phrases that it uses. And if you're able to remove those, I've actually, started a list of overused AI words. And I put it into the instructions that these are never to be used again.
Well,
Threat
it's funny,
landscape, evolving digital landscape. And I'm going, okay, quit using that shit.
One of my old podcasts that I hope to bring back soon is about Dungeons and Dragons. And one of my bits on that hour-long show was I would create 1 or 2 AI modules, for the DM that needed a quick hit to show you that AI could be used to generate a D&D module. I don't know who the programmer is on Grok or ChatGPT because they both use the same thing. If you were to ask Grok or GPT right now, give me 20 random D&D names, I can guarantee you the name Alara will appear at least once. ELARA.
That's a Grok word.
Don't know why.
That's a Grok word.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it though?
That's what at one point in time, that's what the female voice of Grok. That's the name that she goes by, I believe.
Yes, and GPT picked up on that and uses it as well.
Yeah. I see you guys are already, the way that you are interacting with AI is light years ahead of me. You're using it for things, and you guys are clearly in the category of, I'll be the first to admit, I was an autodidact. I was interested in the shit in which I was interested at the time. I read every history book in my high school library. That's all I gave a crap about. And the rest of my grades, I was a poop student, but it helped me later on. But as I learned by example and experience, you may have been taught something, but will people be learning, or are they just manipulating?
Well, okay. So going back to high school, when I was in high school, growing up in Richardson, Texas, the largest employer in town was a little company by the name of Texas Instruments. They invented a calculator.
Right.
Our school district was one of the top 5 districts in the nation before there was a Department of Education. And we were not allowed to use calculators in school.
Okay.
Most of the kids that were in my particular high school, their parents worked at Texas Instruments. We were forced to stick with slide rules. So if we want to go back to purism, if we want to be purists about it, then we ought to strip out spell checkers and grammar checkers. We ought to strip out all the other crap that we've put into the software, because I hate to break it to people, that's some form of autocorrect and all that. That's some form of AI.
Yes.
So this is where I find the teachers and the educators disingenuous. They're okay using that, but to take it to the next level, to have it actually put together a document and have the student be the editor, the ultimate editor for it, that's a problem. That's just one step too far.
Okay, so you don't particularly see an issue with people. Yes, they're being taught. It's a new paradigm, but you feel fairly confident that they will, by dint of this, be learning.
They're going to have to learn a different world, BZ. Their world is not a knowledge retention based world. They're going to have the knowledge at their fingertips. And what we need to teach them how to do is interact with it, how to discern what's real, what's not real, and how to apply it properly. Those, I think, are the things we need to teach. So that goes back to instituting philosophy classes, morals and ethics, creativity classes, and get away from, memorizing your times tables. Who the hell is going to care about that 10 years from now?
Yeah, we need to quit teaching what to know and teaching how to learn.
How to think.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I find interesting, and this is an old axiom that I learned in the process of learning about Einstein and whatnot. Somebody asked Albert Einstein one time, "Hey, can you give me your phone number?" And he says, "No, I don't know my phone number, but I know where to find it. It's in this book." And is that similar to the way that we're going to be hanging our hat on future learning? I maybe I don't know it. Maybe I don't know my times tables, but I sure shit know where to go to find that out.
Correct.
Without even AI, we're pretty much already there. How many of us actually memorize phone numbers anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, I can still tell you the phone number that I had to memorize when I was in kindergarten. And I can tell you my phone number, but almost anybody else's phone number, unless I've known it for longer than 5 or 6 years and I dial it all the time, is in my phone. And you're talking about somebody who, once I read something, I almost never forget it. But when it comes to things like phone numbers and stuff, my brain doesn't hold on to them anymore. Because
you're cheating. You've got an eidetic memory. That's cheating. I call cheating.
I told you I don't actually. I've never been tested. I don't think it's a fully eidetic memory. Either that or eidetic memory is not as it's depicted in TV shows and stuff. Because, like I said, it wouldn't matter whether my brain was willingly trying to hold on to the information or not. I should still be able to access it if it was an eidetic memory. But I literally have gotten to the point where I can't remember phone numbers anymore. And there are things that I'm starting to forget. Like, don't ask me where I put my wallet or park my car half the time. And so,
Rick.
I'm sorry, what?
None.
Nothing. Move on.
I mean, with a lot of these tools, as long as we don't trust them too much. Last time I ran for elected office was for city council, and this is going back a long time ago. And I was running on a public safety platform, and in one of the mailers, I left out every L out of the word public. The spell checker missed it. 6 proofreaders missed it.
Well, the spell check is not going to catch it because the word.
I am still every time somebody suggests I run for office, and one of my regular private charter guys here says I should have a crack at state politics the next time the election comes around here. And I immediately think back to the time I ran for city council on pubic safety.
I was going to say, just tell them
because I trusted the tool.
Just tell them you suck at pubic speaking, so you don't want to do
that. Well, other than AI, what do we have left? We have, it was suggested on this video that we got muscles, we got emotions, and we have agency. And so they asked, okay, are you a high agency person or are you a low agency person? Do you have the ability and the motivations to get things done? Or are you a low agency person for a number of reasons? And the other thing is, they were asking, is AI a de facto competitor? So what you're doing is creating an evolutionary environment, Brett Weinstein says, in which AI is going to evolve to fill whatever niches there are. And we didn't spell out the niches, but it will find them and it will make them. Is that kind of where we're going also in this big old stream?
In Liam Neeson's voice, I am AI and I have a very particular set of skills. I will find your niches and I will fill them.
You know, there's a companion piece to that interview, BZ, that Stephen Barrett put out a couple of days later. It's a behind the scenes video, and he has, what do you say, 3 or 4 different emails from other CEOs that were not in that interview, that are basically doing 2 things. One, they're freezing hiring. They're freezing hiring in order to hire a human now. You have to prove, and they've demanded that their staffs prove that AI could not do that job.
Really?
Yes.
That's the new threshold.
That is the new threshold. So it's already creeping in. I mean, has anybody been to a Popeye's chicken anytime recently?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute for me.
You know, it's been a very long while for me.
So Popeye's chicken over here by us, it's been around. This particular location's been open a couple of years now. The ordering at the menu through the drive-through is AI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this question then. And I do not know the answer of this. And maybe this is the answer. How many times have you driven up to, I don't know, say a McDougal's or something like that? One voice will tell you, hi, good to see you here. And the other one will pipe in and say, are you ready for your order? Is that just 2 separate people, or are they beginning to install AI in various drive-thrus? We know the kiosks are here already.
So McDonald's uses a call center. They centralize the initial greeting, and then somebody at the local level will take over the order. What is it? I was at Panera Bread tonight to pick up sandwiches, and they use call centers as well. So eventually, all of that is going to be, those humans are going to be replaced. They're going to be the first ones on the pig slip sheet, because just turning that over to AI to be able to take an order and process that is nothing. It's going to be very easy to do.
Well, that was certainly worth $15 an hour to $20 an hour, wasn't it?
Well,
And
they
then-
bought their own demise.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, hey, look, here's your pink slip. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. That's next. I'm sure
Well,
of it.
that puts an interesting take on things. If call centers are going to go away, what's going to happen with all these scam call centers out of India with AI now?
That's another thing. Outsourcing this stuff that we didn't want to do in the United States of America, that got outsourced. India, Pakistan, perhaps China, wherever. That stuff is going to be gone too. Those people are in a doom loop. They're not going to get those jobs. Those jobs will go away. So those jobs won't be here in the US, and they won't be out. And all those little people that were making money on that through sweat rooms, steam rooms, whatever it is that they're called, where people labor. That
And I
stuff
bet
is
you we
gone.
still get calls for extending our car warranty.
I know. And hey,
They'll still have
It
jobs.
will be in any language that you want it to be in.
that's
Yeah.
right.
They'll,
Now,
they'll-
Mike will
See,
like
that
this.
was really crazy. I've got an old American voice over IP number on my cell phone here, just to help contact a few people in cases of emergencies. I am still, I've been back in Australia since before COVID. I am still getting calls to extend the warranty on the Dodge Durango I had back then, and it has since shit itself. The electric side of it died, and I am still getting it.
I mean, BZ, all those call center workers from India, they'll have some short-term jobs because they're going to have to teach the AI to speak with emphasis on using D's instead of T's.
That's true. And isn't that funny? What are those visas called when people came in and then American workers were pissed off when the people with those particular visas had to teach the cadre of people coming in who were
HB1.
available to work at lesser rates? It's cyclical. What did you say, Mike?
I think
Mike.
it's HB1 visas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you will. I think you'll appreciate this little story more than maybe others, but others will understand it. Dell Computers was one of the first ones to really incorporate Indian customer service. And my older sister, who was also in IT, worked for Dell. And she gave me this little tip. When you would call into Dell, into the line, if you spoke English, you were instantly going to an Indian call center. So you had to go like something like ja, wollen Herr, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Once they knew you didn't speak English, you got transferred back to an American. And then you would get transferred to someone who was speaking German or whatever language you spoke, even Spanish at the time. And then you would go, dude, do you speak English? Oh, you do? Okay, let's just speak in our regular language.
Damn it, Jim. I wish I'd known that. All the hours of heartache it would have spared everyone here. Brett Weinstein sees nothing but a human catastrophe brewing all around the planet. So how is it going to be different when, back then in the day, textile workers, railroad workers, the railroads during the era of steam were massively human demanding. Buggy whip manufacturers, farmers, all kicked to the curb. Advocates of AI are going to say, well, we managed. The big difference this time, I suggest, and I learned it from these guys, is it's all now about scale, speed, and the physical number of persons involved. And those are three large factors that somehow we're going to have to overcome. And the other thing is, because of competition, every industry is going to be affected. And every industry, and Mike, I'd like you to weigh in on this, and then we're going to have to jam because we've been here for a while. If every industry is going to have to get on board, and they're going to have to eliminate positions if it wants to survive, not just thrive, just survive at a certain level, because there's going to be no other choice. Is that accurate or wildly, flailingly inaccurate, Mike?
Well, I think what you've got is a situation where, and it's part of what I'm already planning for the next 3 years is what is my own personal AI adoption journey going to look like within the business. I'm mapping out agents today just as far as handling sales and marketing and customer service aspects of it. And how do we implement that? How many is it going to take? How long is it going to take to build it? So those kinds of things. But BZ, to answer your question, I think every business is going to they're going to have to embrace this somehow, some way. And if they do, they need to have governance, risk, and compliance programs in place within the organization to put guardrails on the 16-year-old with a driver's license and the keys to the car for the first time. There's some bad stuff that happens when the AI gets loose. So, but they're going to have to either embrace it or they're going to be out of business. I honestly think that is the inflection point. They're going to have to figure it out. Otherwise, those that are use it will have a massive advantage. Those that don't will be left in the dustbin.
Well, let me ask you this then. Is it going to be like Google, where Google got into internet search first? And I guess that Google is going to be kicked to the curb because more people are beginning to use AI as search other than Google. And as Chief Dan George says, when I heard that, my heart soars like an eagle when I heard that.
You still got to remember, I mean, Google's got an AI. Google's got the basis of search. I think, I was telling you this or Lonnie this in last week. I don't think I have used traditional search for anything in the last 8 months. All of my searches have been AI-driven searches.
Same.
And quite frankly, they're more thorough, they're more complete. It's going through and searching. At one point in time, I had something it was working on, and it was 190 sites it was searching all at one time it was reading. It's absolutely crazy, the amount that it can provide. But I think to answer the question again, I think they're going to have to embrace it or die. But
okay, well, let me ask you guys this question.
Then people expect.
Two final questions. One just popped into my wheelhouse here in just a moment. Now, Mike, you mentioned that businesses or corporations that don't get on the train leaving the station right now are going to be in a serious bad way. If they don't, will they be able to come back and recover?
Well, I think that's a hard question to speculate on. I think once you get left at the train station, is there another train coming by, or is it just gone?
Good question. I do not know that answer. I was just throwing it out there. Also, second question. This will be the final question for the night, and I thank you guys for staying up so late and everybody for watching live right now and also watching later in podcast. This question, the big, beautiful bill. In that bill is part of a codicil that states for 10 years, the United States, the federal government, will make the decisions regarding AI, and it's removing that capability from states that the 10th Amendment would formally allow these people to utilize and enjoy. Good thing, bad thing? Do we need uniformity, or should it be all up to the individual states?
Who wants to go first?
Mike, how about you? You mentioned, so go ahead and hit it.
So, okay. So the next arms race is AI. So from the standpoint of artificial intelligence and whether or not the federal government, from a national security standpoint, has the right to tell the states to back down on this, I kind of agree with it. It has to be a national issue.
Okay, Jeff, any thoughts?
100% agree with Mike. And I cannot tell you how much that hurts me to my core to
To
say
say,
don't have the rights here. But we do need the unifying direction and then cross our fingers that it's the right direction.
okay, Rick, thoughts?
Well, I agree from a national security perspective that there does need to be some federal oversight. I don't agree with some of the language that I've read in that, and I'll be curious to see how that shapes out, because when is the last time the federal government actually innovated anything? We need the state laboratories for innovation purposes, is all I'm saying.
And that deserves.
When was the last time state governments actually innovated anything? I'm just
Well,
going to say that too.
States in general, though. I mean, if federal government is like overreaching all of it, that's going to stifle a lot of creativity and everything else, is my only concern.
Well,
Because
I don't disagree. I think though, with the need for nuclear power for particular data centers and clearing the construction that's going to be needed out of the way from an environmental standpoint at the federal level and removing those roadblocks, it's the only way. We don't produce enough power. China is upping their game on power left, right, and center right now. We are at a massive disadvantage from a power standpoint, and we have to fix it.
Jack, thoughts?
Yeah, look, like everyone else here, I'm torn. National security, yeah, the federal government should trump it, but how does that then get in the way of research and so on? I think back to when Dolly the sheep was first cloned. A lot of scientists were, wanting to get on board with that, but government regulations got in the way, and rightly so in some respects. But it's, yeah, I mean, it pains me that we have to give new policing responsibilities to government because people will misuse it.
And finally, folks, let us know. And because you were last and first to go, tell us about your social media sites or any other locations that you'd like people to know about.
Look, the only social media that's running at the moment is my my Rumble channel. I've put a few new podcasts up there. I was hoping to do them weekly, but that's just life and gets in the way. So do a search for the Jack Alexander Experiment over on Rumble.
JEFF, tell us about your being an alien in disguise and where you can be found, a cosmic bard.
This Sunday, I will be doing episode 63 of In the Crease, where I will be looking at the Hinterkaifeck murders from a long time ago, about 100 years ago or so, and taking a unique look at them. And then the following Sunday, I will be back for my Lost Wonder podcast, where I talk about space and science. And one thing before I disappear into the wind.
Yes.
One thing that makes humans special above all others is the soul.
Yes.
Never lose your soul. Never lose thought of that soul. And remember to embrace it.
Absolutely. Mike Fitzpatrick, where can you be found if people want to contact you, or if they want to know about, I must stop hackers and stop them now, sir?
Okay, so best place to find us is at ncxgroup.com. That's the website. Our social platforms are, I think all of them are at ncxgroup. So that's probably the easiest way to get us.
Okay, cool. Righty Rick, what about you? I know you got a show tomorrow morning.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, the Rick Robinson Show. And then tomorrow night, I'm not sure what we're doing because Aggie's out of town, so we may put something together. I may just want to replay. Saturday, we'll be pushing buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew first at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I think. And then be doing Juxtaposition, our 2-week foray, every 2-week foray into the weird, the unusual, the unexplainable that usually happens and kicks off at 10 p.m. Eastern now. And then Sunday night I'll be pushing buttons for Corin Nimick's new show with us, Corin's Reading Room, and then
Nice.
America Off the Rails on Mondays. I also write for Twitchy, The Loftus Party, and occasionally for Misfits Politics, and I also produce a Loftus Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. Hey, he asked at all, damn it.
Okay, that I thought the other one was going to be the last one for the night, but apparently not. Jack Alexander, good to see you. Where we are right now. There we are. And Jack, thanks for you being here tonight. And Mike, thanks for you being here tonight. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, no, I won't be able to do that. Well, anyway, gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thanks to everybody who was watching. Still right now sitting at 525 people watching. That's absolutely astounding and amazing. Everybody, thank you in attendance. Thanks to my wonderful guests. Thanks to Jack Alexander. Thanks to JEFF. Thanks to Rick Robinson. Thanks to Mike Fitzpatrick and everyone here tonight. Everyone, God bless. Take care and be safe. And with that, I say something similar to good night.